Good morning. Welcome to Coffee Talk. I'm Mark Bradberry. Why don't you grab a cup and join me this morning? A word of advice. Don't believe everything that you hear. Wow, that's right. We live in a world in which we're constantly being bombarded by all sorts of messaging. And, we've got to evaluate it. There's questionable news reporting, half-true political sound bites, the media rumors, the ever-present spin doctors, and the talking heads. Blatant divisiveness is going on. We all see that. The messages that we hear are persuasive, and they touch us palpably in our emotions. We all realize that. Yet in large numbers, we are easily swayed. Sometimes by fear, sometimes by our insecurities, sometimes by greed. Those things happen. And we often go after them blindly. Now, there are people of bad character out there, men and women who keep a level head, and they take advantage of that knowledge. Now, it was at one time limited to the realms of, let's just say snake oil salesmen or marketeers. But now, in the minds of some, it's become an exercise in the realm of social engineering. It's wise and reasonable to evaluate everything that you hear. Not all that glitters is gold, and not everything should be taken up into our lives. We need to make up our own minds based on confirmed facts, not on charismatic speakers or great personalities. It's a truth even when you are receiving the noblest of truths. It's true even when you're receiving the words about God. Now, a doctor in ancient days, a doctor by the name of Luke, you may be familiar with his writings, he recorded an event in the life of the Apostle Paul at the very beginning of Christianity. Now, as it had happened, Paul and his ministry partner Silas had been in the Greek city of Thessalonica, and they had been preaching and sharing the good news about Jesus Christ. And many people there were accepting it. But it says that some troublemakers, started causing trouble and creating riots and unrest in the city. So Paul and Silas went on to another town called Berea. So they began speaking there. And Luke tells us that the Berean Jews were of a more noble character than those in Thessalonica. Why? Well, it says that they received the message from Paul very eagerly, and they examined the scriptures every day to see if what Paul said was true. Now, here's the thing. They wanted very much to hear what Paul had to say. The story of Jesus Christ, the Messiah, had been spreading like wildfire throughout the Roman Empire. And, let's just say it, who could not be compelled by such a message? They were being touched in their very soul to want to hear of a God who personally cared for them, of a God who would give of himself to forgive them of their sin and cover their guilt, a God who would not condemn them or curse them to eternal nothingness, but who promised eternal life. What a compelling message. But Luke tells us that even though the Bereans very much wanted to hear this, they did one very important, very smart, and very wise thing. They checked it out. They didn't just accept what Paul had to say blindly. No, they didn't just jump up and run forward with some sort of wild acceptance. No, they listened to what Paul had to say, and then they immediately verified what they already knew to be right and true. So what's the point here? There are a lot of things that happen in our world, in our lives, in our relationships that we hear about. We're bombarded with news and ideas and concepts and events and opinions all the time. There's a lot of information shared. And you know as well as I do that not all of it is true and not all of it is well informed. Check things out against what is right and true before you just make a leap that might prove disastrous for you. Then when you do respond with intent, of course, you know that you're acting out of conviction and not just because of the influence of a manipulator. Check it out. Check me out. And enjoy your coffee.